Hey friends, what's up? My name is John and I run LeadArt, a cold email lead generation agency. And in this video, I'm going to cover exactly how we build prospect lists for our B2B SaaS clients from scratch, from start to finish, so you can actually follow this and implement this for yourself too. Because I know this is a huge problem that we also have in our own school community, where we teach 80 people right now how to run cold email within their businesses. So I wanted to make a point and make a YouTube video out of this to show you people how I do this from start to finish, right? From end to end. And for that, I have a couple points prepared. I'm going to go through them while sharing my screen. And we're going to do that right now. So I start off any prospect list by basically defining who I need to reach out to. So usually when we have clients, they have their ICP criteria, they have them uploaded, right? They have some documentation on that, which we can give to our AI, and then the AI will basically make sense out of that for us. So this will like be the main thing that we will have to look for so that we can actually build these lists properly. Now, if I talk about ICP, a lot of people just immediately have these avatars in their mind. Some people might not have anything in mind. If you don't know what ICP means, it's basically ideal client profile, right? It's like the ideal customer profile, the ideal target audience that you basically have. And a lot of people have like certain names given to these avatars. Like you might say, my typical customer is John. He's 37 years old. He drives a 911 and he likes to play golf and he's into like sports equipment stuff. You could have that avatar, right? When I talk about ICP criteria, I mean specifically what kind of companies are we looking at, right? Like what do they have in common? And then at those companies, what kind of people are we looking for, right? So we have these two stages which are going to be super important for later on. So we have the companies, right? Let's just build a nice house. Boom. This is a company, right? C for company. Boom. This is your company. This is the first stage. And then the second stage is people at those companies. Yes. For ICP criteria, we first only look at companies. And this has a very practical reason. If you're using Apollo or LinkedIn is actually a very good example for this. Yeah, that's also like all of these are pretty nice examples, but most people that are going to watch this, they are very familiar with LinkedIn Sales Navigator by chance, right? You've sent maybe a couple direct messages to people, connection requests, etc. If you have been using LinkedIn, you'll see that you have both the company search, the account search, and then you have the people search, right? Most people go straight to the people search, which then results in a lot of different people that are not fit for your like criteria, right? And that's usually because filtering on a people level is super hard. And there's a very nice reason for it actually. Because this person, right, if they have been in the game for more than a couple of years, they have not only been at this specific company that you're looking for, but they have been in maybe a couple others as well, right? And that history in those databases is messing up the accuracy. So company history of this person is messing up your email lists or your data accuracy. Because now if you go into LinkedIn and you search for, let's say you're looking for software companies, right? You might be looking for software companies, but this specific person might have been in a software company in a past life and is now just chilling in the woods, maybe retired, right? Maybe a crypto pump billionaire. You don't even know. You have no idea. So this is going to make it super hard for you because you'll go ahead and you'll search for head of sales at software companies that have worked at software companies for at least 3 years. He might be a fit for that, but the data might be outdated, right? Super bad, super annoying. This is the main reason why most, like, if you get cold emails and they are like super irrelevant and they are referencing stuff from your past life, that's exactly why. They are going for people search immediately. That's the main problem, right? So what we do is we do company search first only, right? So we will go ahead and then figure out what the software companies look like, right? How many employees? Boom, employees. Region, right? Maybe based on LTV or revenue that they currently generate. What else? News, right? Let's say they have a Series A funding. What else? Stuff like that, right? I don't want to make it too complicated, but stuff like that. That's going to be the thing that you're looking for. And as soon as you have those companies, you will then have, let me do something real quick. Let me draw. Great, draw. Boom. This is your spreadsheet. Look at this amazing spreadsheet, right? You'll have the spreadsheet, right? Boom. This is your spreadsheet. And this spreadsheet will only contain companies. Now, from these companies, let me go back into my note just to make sure. Yes. From these companies, we're going to pull the website URL now. That's the SOP. I'm literally looking at the SOP. We need to pull their website URLs. So next step is basically website URLs. Main reason being is we will go ahead and then get their SEO descriptions and we'll get their Markdown text or their website, their content as Markdown files, right? .md, Markdown files. Markdown is basically like Markdown is like a type of writing. So if you have like a hashtag, it's like heading 1. And then if you use like a dash, it would be a bullet point, right? It's basically very easy to read text for AI. That's what we're trying to get. It's like, it has zero formatting other than this. It doesn't have any colors. It's just plain text, basically, right? So we will get the content of their website and the SEO descriptions as Markdown files. With those Markdown files, we'll use something like GPT 5.6, not 7, 6, not so, Luna, right? We'll use that to put that data alongside the website URLs so that we can build a spreadsheet full of text, right? It's going to be filled with text. That's going to allow us to, one, have the general data like employees, region, LTV, Series A funding, news, hiring or not, etc. And then we'll have the website URLs, and then we will have their full SEO descriptions and the content as Markdown files in this spreadsheet. And then we're going to take, I don't even know which AI we use. It might be Luna because it's still efficient, but I think we're using Sol for this. Or Sol is using like a bunch of sub-agents like Luna to then go through the spreadsheet and then compare the SEO description, the actual profiles, right? This is enough information to build a profile. Like, what are they actually selling? What is this business actually, right? Actually. Who is this, right? We can find this out just by looking at the SEO descriptions and the content as Markdown files. And we will then compare it with the ICP criteria of our clients. Just to make sure that all the random car washes that had software somewhere on the website at some point are being excluded, because we're looking for software businesses in this specific case, right? So we're going to exclude them all. We're going to exclude all the bullshit, basically. That's why we're here and why we're first looking at all the companies, right? Super important. As soon as our AI with all the agents that it's launching, right? It's going to look at all the roles, etc. Like, and this works with prospect lists that are, I mean, just a couple, I think an hour ago or something, I launched like a prospect list with like 22,000 rows. Easy. This is like minutes of work, if not maybe half an hour. That's pretty much what it is, right? So we're gonna compare again the contents, the actual profiles of these different companies with the ICP criteria to see if there's a match. And whenever there's not a match, we'll exclude them. This will get us a super accurate, right? Compare criteria versus actual businesses in the list. As soon as we have that, we're going to exclude non-fit companies. And then we'll have a super accurate list of companies. This is how this works. And now, taking this, wait, let me do this, boom. Taking this super accurate list of companies, we will now, right? We will now take this and then look for people at those companies. How? Right? How? How is this gonna work? In here, you remember we have these different filters set up, right? For the company. In here, we'll simply look at the ICP criteria that we have from the documentation, right? And then those will say, wait, let's do this. Boom. Job title, used in role, maybe hiring or not, right? Is this person hiring? And all of the other stuff, right? This is super easy to find because now you can make sure that you're getting the list freshly, like fresh, scraped from these companies. How are you going to do that? You're going to use something like, I'm going to give you some tool recommendations, Prospero. This is what I use, right? This is what I use. Yes. You get them with Prospero. You can then, in Prospero, and this is where read separates from chaff. And this is not an offense, but like I had to use that saying. Read. Is it read? Yes. Yeah, of course it's read. Chaff. I hope this is right. Let's actually find this out real quick. Read versus chaff. I'm basically English at this point. It's correct. When my German ass doesn't know what's what. Wait. Contrast the valuable grain of the reed plant with the dry, scaly, and useless protective husk, chaff, that surrounds it. So, this is basically low quality stuff, right? Chaff. Also sounds low quality. So, you would just spend your credits to get their emails, to reveal, right? They say reveal their emails. This is like the more expensive route. This is why it's like, this is more expensive. This is more expensive. This gets you like, I think it's like 3 cents per valid email. Sometimes like 3 to 4 cents per valid email, right? And then you have the thing that we're doing, right? What we're doing is we have our internal email guesser. I just called it like that because I didn't have a better name. And what we do in here is basically we find these people with their job titles, etc., and then we get their full name, and we already have the website URL of that specific person. And with those two things, guess what we can do? We can do first name at website URL.com. And then we can do a bunch of variations of these. We can do first name dot last name at website, etc. Or only the first initial, right? At website URL, etc. We can now guess email addresses. And guessing email addresses is super cheap. It's super cheap because we only have to look up these two things. We don't even have to reveal their email, right? So that doesn't cost us a credit, which is super nice. And then we go ahead and we use Million Verifier to go ahead and verify all the different variants to then get the proper, Million. I'm giving away the sauce. Isn't that wild? And we had a viewer. I'm famous, basically. I'm on TV. I'm on TV at this point. Yes, not Million Verified, but Million Verifier. I'm literally giving away the sauce. So what we do is we take all of these different variations of full name at website URL.com, and then we figure out that we guess their email addresses, and then the valid ones we take and we put them into the email campaigns. And with this, at times, I have a lot of numbers in my mind right now, but I think we're getting on average like 0.8 cents per valid email, right? So it's basically 3 to 4 cents versus 0.8 cents per valid email, like actual valid email. And by the way, 3 to 4 cents, this is not valid. This hasn't been verified yet. This is like, if you just pull it from Prospero and then they say it's triple verified, that's what it is. Which still is not fully valid. Like, this is rarely valid. It's like 80%, 90% maybe, like 90% valid, right? So you're risking 10% bounce rate. Yes. Leon is here. Hi, friend. Boom. Yes, you're risking 10% bounce rate, which is horrible for your campaigns. But this is real. This is super real, right? So this is the situation. This is how we get the email addresses of these people. And basically, like all the invalid ones you remove. As soon as you have them removed, you'll basically have your ready list, right? Boom. You'll have your, that's a terrible arrow, clean list that you can email, which is also going to be 90% accurate, right? You can email these people. Boom. Done. And this entire like algorithm where you first find the company, and then you go through the steps of like figuring out what kind of companies these actually are, and then you compare them to the criteria that you actually have, exclude the non-fit ones, and then you find the correct people, and then you find their email addresses, and then exclude the ones that are actually not clean, right? They are not valid. That's how you get a clean and accurate prospect list that you can now email, right? This is the process. And you can run this algorithm first on a small scale, test it out a little, and then if the response rates are good, which they usually are because it's a super accurate list, you will then go ahead and then run this up to the max and then find every single person possible at all of the companies that you could find with those criteria. So your only bottleneck is really like finding the correct companies. That's basically it, because you will always find someone at that company. Like you can, if the head of sales or CRO, etc., is your ICP at those companies, you can look for all sorts of job titles like head of sales, CRO, etc. That's pretty much what you're going to do, right? Yes. So this is that. This is that. And we have this entire thing on Skool, because we're teaching people how to run cold email within their businesses for $199 a month with 80 members. And you get daily Q&A where we like answering your questions with like custom videos for you. We have weekly calls like these where we go through this in your campaigns, like actually live with you. There's no AI stuff whatsoever. We have courses, etc. And you get access to these email scrapers that I just talked about, where you can basically guess their email addresses for super cheap. You just get access to that. So even if you pull like a list of 20,000 people, I think you already saved the $200 or whatever. I think that might be an exaggeration. I don't know, like whatever the math is, but like you pretty quickly get your money back, which is super nice. Yes. So this is that. That's the first video done. This is super cool. This is actually pretty cool. Yes. This is super cool. Yeah. Let me actually elaborate that on that a little bit, because I said like you will get proper response rates, right? The reason you will get proper response rate, let me do this. The reason you will get proper response rates if you have a clean list is literally because you can now write an email that is specifically talking to one persona. And that's a very, very underrated thing in general. It is super, super underrated, right? A lot of people, especially if they're running like mass cold email outreach, and I did the same thing. I did the exact same thing. When I started out, I did the exact same thing. So I'm guilty of this 100%. You see the prospect list with like tens of thousands of people, and it feels like you are talking to an audience because there are so many people, right? So you start writing your email in a very weird way where you talk like, when you read it as a single person, it looks like a speech to an audience, because that's what you're in the mode of talking to an audience because there are so many people. But if you manage to ignore however many people are in a prospect list and you just focus on one person and you get as many of these persons, right, in that prospect list, so you have a bunch of people in that prospect list that all have the same persona, you can write to that single person and then reach everyone in the exact same way, which will then increase the response rates because every one of these people are going to really like feel addressed. And if people feel addressed, they will respond, usually. Because if you're in the New York subway, for example, and you wanted to like, let's say you saw your mom, right? And you wanted to call out your mom in the midst of all the chaos. Like you see Spider-Man over there, there's the subway driving in, it's chaotic as fuck, right? The only way you'll reach your mom is literally by calling out her name. And if by happenstance there's another person that has the same name, they will look at you as well because they will feel addressed. All the other ones won't feel addressed. If you start screaming and shouting, but you say everything except your mom's name, no one will care because no one will feel addressed. It will just add to the chaos of the subway, right? And this is a huge problem that a lot of these cold emails have, that I also receive. My past cold emails from years back, they were terrible. They don't work because you're not addressing anyone. It doesn't work, right?